to our show, Pride and Ownership, the Love for the Job. I'm your host, Chief Rick Lasky, and before we get going, as we usually do, we have a little bit of information to cover here at the beginning. We've got some great news, folks. We had Professor Glennie, we had Glenn Corbett on not that long ago to talk about fire engineering's new handbook, the handbook for Firefighter 1 and 2, which is going to just impact the fire service in an incredible way. This basics book for those getting started, for those academies, it's incredible. We did the show and we went from chapter to chapter and from author to author, and when you see who some of the authors are in their area of expertise, it's when you look at the history section and you see who the author is in that history section, and you've heard us talk about the Heritage of Flames before by a gentleman named Cannon, and the book that came out in the 70s about the history of the fire service, which is an incredible book. Well, when you look and see who the folks are that are writing some of these chapters, you'll be pleasantly surprised when you see some of the experts in those fields. But it's going to be incredible. I was thumbing through the skills drills, our skill drills booklet. Glenn talked about this thing being, harder, thicker pages. So when you bring it out to your drill field or on the apparatus floor, the pages don't get torn or bent up as easy. There was really some thought put into that. The instructor's curriculum with the PowerPoints, with the embedded videos is awesome. But the book itself is I think it's going to change, a lot of what we do and how we train our new firefighters with Firefighter 1 and 2. So you get a chance, take a look. It'd be a great investment for your department. Like I said, I think you see a lot of states and a lot of different folks moving to this curriculum very soon, especially once they get into it and see how well it was all put together. So hats off to everybody. There were so many people that worked so hard at Penwell and Professor Glenn Corbett, working so hard to kind of ramrod and run that whole thing and edit things and put his heart and soul into it with a lot of other people, and they did a great job. Hey, we're just finishing up, working our way through October. It's pretty much we're coming to a close here with Fire Prevention Month, which I've said before, I don't understand why every month isn't Fire Prevention Month, by the way. Interesting thing going on here. We're kind of working with our school district on trying to get them to sprinkler the last high school in our district, in the Louisville Independent School District. And, sometimes some of the folks with some of the districts and some of the areas need a little reminder of what it's all about and need to revisit December 2nd, 1958, and the days before and after and around that with the Our Lady of the Angels fire in Chicago, and maybe pick up the copy of To Sleep with the Angels and, really see what we're all about when it comes to the safety of our children and to the schools that are out there. We're still not quite there across the country with a lot of our school districts, but we've got some good folks in plans reviews and our fire prevention bureaus that are making a difference. We've got a new fire marshal here, Tim Ippolito, came over from California, and he's doing an incredible job. And it's nice because he's a brother. He's been in fire service for a long time. He's one of us, and when he makes his decisions, it's based on what's best for the community. But inside, he's taking care of us too, because he knows what he's doing is making sure that we're safe and that he's taking care of business for our folks. He's got a great division, a great group of people, and we're blessed. I'm blessed. We've got a great fire prevention bureau here. So, actually, he's not that new. He's this past year, but he's doing a great job for us, especially when it comes to things like I just talked about, getting sprinklers in schools, among other places. While we're talking about that, we've mentioned before the different sites you can go to for various information. There's some great stuff out there between the NFPA and NIOSH and all that. But when it comes to looking at the fire service as a whole, what we're trying to do when you go to the U.S. Fire Administration site, and that's it's www.usfa.dhs.gov, usfa.dhs.gov. There's a lot of great information there, but one of the things that you want to have an impact on some of the people around you, maybe some of the folks in your city hall, they've got all the free subscriptions for all the updates and statistics. Just subscribe to the one for civilian fire deaths, and and you'll pretty much get one every day mailed to you, emailed to you, and sometimes you'll have one. Rarely you'll have none, but often you'll have sometimes 7 or 8 instances, and some of those are 3 or 4 person fatalities. And it's been a wake-up call for a lot of our folks here, and for some of my friends out there across the country to see just how many people we're losing. I think we kind of, unless it happens in our own community next to us, we don't really pay attention to it sometimes. But again, Firefighter 1 and 2 books out. Got some great pictures. October is our big Memorial Month, where we remember those that have sacrificed and went before us. They incredible, absolutely incredible job again. When you look at what's going on in Colorado Springs and then Emmitsburg, we had Chief Sarnicki on the show, and he talked about that. And if you haven't had a chance to go to either one of those memorials, you need to. It'll change your life. I don't know how else to say it. It'll change your life. So, but if you're ever traveling in the Pacific Northwest and you want to see one that is absolutely incredible, Coeur d'Alene in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, North Idaho, about 20, 30 minutes east of Spokane, Washington. Chief Kenny Gabriel and his crew out there behind their firehouse number 3. He'll even send you pictures of it. Absolutely incredible memorial. A lot of community effort put between that and into it, but for their fire department as well as law enforcement in the area. So great job. If you're ever driving through there, you need to stop. It's right off the highway, right behind their firehouse number 3. It's well worth a visit. Just another one that's incredible. Besides, obviously, the ones you probably got close to you. And lastly, before we get rolling here is, nowadays, the excuse of maybe not having enough time to get the training or even the schooling that you need is kind of becoming weaker and weaker by the day. There's so many great colleges out there that are offering online programs, and what happens a lot, I know in our area, is the fact that you've got firefighters that get on the job when they're 18, 19 years old, and they're like, well, they'll tell their mom and dads, hey mom, hey dad, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to get going. It's just going to be a chance to get on a job here. And they get through the fire academy, they get through paramedic school, and then they end up working a side job with someone, and then they end up getting a side job of their own. Then they get hooked up with someone. Then they have some kids, and they never really get around to it. Well, there's some incredible programs out there. So take a look. They're out there. Heck, if you go to Fire Engineering's website, you'll see some of them. One of them in particular, Columbia Southern University, CSU. They're bending over backwards to work with firefighters. I know a lot of people that enrolled it, and personally, I'm in it myself. I'm taking a shot just to it's time to get another degree. When you sit there and you look at what you want to do and what you got when you're earlier, and you get one in business, and you always want a fire science degree or whatever. They've got a variety, but their fire science program is awesome. So, but you can get you can call Kim Plosh. Kim will be more than willing to help you out. Let me see. Her number for Kim is 800-977-8449. 800-977-8449. That's Columbia Southern University. And give it a shot. Give it a try. See, you know what? Online, you can do it at your own pace for the most part. Not a whole lot of pressure, and you could end up with something on the wall when you're done you're really proud of. So, again, like I said, a lot of our young firefighters, tell their moms and dads that they're going to get after it, and after a while they never really do because they get into other things. So here's a chance for you to get caught up on some stuff if you want. All right, just want to spend a few minutes with you today talking about something I think we need to get back into here. And the more and more that we look at what's hurting our folks and how we're losing some of our firefighters in the fire service, the more we need to start looking again at the true root of the problem. Now, we've discussed before with some of our guests that leadership plays an incredible role when it comes to what we do and how we survive and how we make it through the day or through each call if you're a volunteer. The lack of leadership or the poor leadership back in the firehouse has a lot to do with what's going on. I mean, on your fire ground, at your accident scene, on your training field. Unfortunately, we get kind of wound up and we get into this in some places where the more time we get on a job, sometimes the less we want to train, and you get young firefighters that come to work for you and they want to train, and you kind of kill off that enthusiasm, and it should be the opposite. You know, the senior classmen, if you will, the senior members of your department should really be pushing. If anyone has seen what's went on in a career, and anyone who's observed what's hurt our firefighters, it's those people with time on a job, and those are the folks that we need to step up and take those rookies, those probies, those young firefighters, even those who have been on the job for a while with them, even, and motivate them to train and get them to get better at what they're doing. That's the only way we're gonna make a difference here, is if we get the people that are making a difference out there for us, the people who are setting the tempo for us, to step up and get our folks to do what's right, and that's train. It all comes back down to training as to what we do and how we get things done. Without the leadership behind it, it's just kind of it falls apart and it really doesn't get anywhere. You'll have a few people out there doing some good stuff, but they get frustrated and burned out after a while because they feel they're not getting anywhere, and those are the folks we need to keep stoking those flames, you know, stoking the fires of wanting to make a difference and training within to keep things going. But let's look at something that I've called for a while, for years now, sweating the small stuff. This is something we started talking about, back in the late 90s, and it's something that I'm sure was discussed well before then by other folks and has been since then. But there was some publications put out years ago that were called, actually the title was "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff," because it's all small stuff. Well, for us, the small stuff, when you really think about it, is often the stuff that's getting us hurt or killed. We've talked about this many times before, but if you're too busy on your Thursday night drill or Saturday morning drill, if you're on the volunteer accommodation department or paid department, you're too busy with your Egg McMuffin or your peanut butter sandwich or hopefully your oatmeal in the morning to check your air pack, and you get turned around at 2 o'clock in the morning in a house fire tonight, that's now a big thing. That's a bad thing, a very bad thing. When you run out of air and you thought you had more than what you actually have, because you didn't check it, that's a bad thing. When you show up at that baby not breathing call and your O2 cylinder is empty because the shift before you or the last person who used it left it on accident, but you failed to check it, that's now a big deal. If you're not teaching your firefighters how to stay oriented in a building or in a room, that is a big, big deal. So, we're not talking about hand grenades and blowing buildings up and losing firefighters that way. You look at the statistics, look at the reports. We've talked about what NIASH has to offer, what the U.S. Fire Administration has to offer, NFPA, the International Association of Firefighters, all the different groups out there that publish some of the line of duty deaths and the deaths. When you look at the causes, there's nothing new. It's really nothing new out there. I mean, there might be a couple little things that over the years we've talked about some of the exposure incidents and things like that. But folks, when we talk about what happens on the fire ground, it's the same stuff happening over and over again. And a great way to realize this, and this is another one of those free drills. We've mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again, is what we call here in Louisville the line of duty death book report drill. And this thing has had an incredible impact on our department. It's I don't know how we've had. It's actually saved one of our firefighters' lives, and it's a simple process. And let me explain to you how it works. Our training division, our training chief will, head over. He'll hit station 5. He'll go, okay, here's your drill. And we train here in Louisville. We're a paid department. We train 6 days a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are usually multi-company training. Thursday, Friday, Saturday is in-house, or sometimes they get together again. We get Sundays are makeup days or wash and wax your Ford F-1000 day, but we really do hit it hard and get through a lot when it comes to topics and subject matter and that. But this is something that was supposed to be just a once-a-month drill or actually once a quarter drill a while back that turned into a once a month drill, and it turned it even more than that when the guys got a hold of it. What the training division does is our training chief will go to one of the stations, go to Station 5 or Station 7, and say, okay, here's your line of duty death. Here's your NIOSH report. Here's your NFPA report, U.S. Fireman Report, whatever. Here's the the article from Fire Engineering Magazine. Here's a video clip or whatever. Your requirement is to put together a minimum of a 20-minute presentation. It could be on the back of a napkin. It could be on scratch paper, or you could do from kitchen table to firehouses or drill night, or you could do it on PowerPoint and get as fancy as you want, however you want to do it, but it has to be a minimum of 20 minutes. What you're going to do is you're going to review the incident. You're going to describe the incident. You're going to list the contributing factors that were determined at the end by the investigation, and then you're going to explain to the rest of your shift, or department for that matter, how that's not going to happen in your community like we do here, how it's not going to happen in Louisville. And I think you'll be amazed when you start comparing the fires where we're losing firefighters out there to those that you're working with in your own community. You'll start to see some parallels that'll scare the hell out of you, that you'll go, why did that happen here? And our good friend Chief John Salko will talk about in Fireground Responsibly, cutting a link in that line of duty death chain. One little thing done differently and that firefighter's alive. You'll start to see that amplified when you start reviewing these incidents. Now, there's one rule that they have to follow. No taking pot shots, no gigging people, no making fun, no comments. There's people out there that err in judgment, they make mistakes or whatever. The last thing we want to do is embarrass or make fun of a department. What we should be doing is sharing this information a lot more. So that's our rule here is show some respect, show some professionalism. It's happened a lot. It's happened at different places. Let's not do the wrong thing here with something that's supposed to be the right thing. So no, nothing like that. And the guys are great about that. And actually, it's taken off here to some incredible heights. But then when you actually sit down with your shift or with your department, and you start to review a line of duty death. And here's something that's pretty cool. We actually have, like, the whole firehouse will usually step up and do it. The captain will do a portion, the driver engineer will do a portion. They'll even have the rookie do a portion. What a great way for your young firefighters to have something embedded when it comes to their safety into their brain, to have them stand up and teach or lecture on a portion of this particular fatality. Our guys have actually reached out to some of those people who have involved in some of these near misses or these line of duty deaths and really brought home some personalism, if you will, to it. And it has changed the lives of a lot of our firefighters. But it's an incredible way. It's a freebie again. With bad budgets right now, this is something, we got to a point where we were doing it once a month, and we had to actually ask the guys, look, we need to get back on some other things, but we don't want to kill off the enthusiasm. So let it run for a while. It went wonderfully. If you're looking for any information, maybe the outline that we use and the steps that we follow to put together our line of duty death book report drill, feel free, give my training chief a call, Brian Freed. Brian Freed, F-R-E-E-D. You can give him a shout at his email, which is that's B as in boy, B Freed, F-R-E-E-D again, at cityoflouisville.com. B Freed at cityoflouisville.com. And that's Louisville, L-E-W-I-S-V-I-L-L-E, Louisville. Or give Brian a call at 972-219-3594, 972-219-3594. He's more than willing to share. It's something that we had going here for a while. We had it going in another place too. Chief Thompson, our previous training chief, who went over to the colony next door to us to serve as fire chief. They had a good job yesterday at the International House of Pancakes, and they did good, and quick knockdown and good job on the fire. But Scott had got that going here, and Brian's picked it up and ran with it. So give Brian a call or shoot him an email, and he'll be more than willing to help you with that information on the line to do that book report drill. Now, some of those small things that we need to visit here for a few minutes on it, and this is going to seem, sometimes we'll go places, we'll talk about this, and people actually shake their heads saying, you're kidding me, right? I mean, this is so basic. It's and the first one, when you look at, let's go back for a second. When you look at the NFPA's list every year that comes out, maybe the top 3 or 4 reasons or contributing factors to the line of duty deaths. You'll see, failure to follow SOPs, SOGs up there, lack of an accountability system. Somewhere in there is going to be communications, whether it's someone not having a clip-on or shoulder mic on their radio. That's one of our big pet peeves here. You don't show up at a fire ground without a clip-on mic on your radio, a shoulder mic. When you're trapped or you're inside a building, the time to be trying to grab your radio, pull it out of your pocket on your coat, that's not a good time to be doing that. You need that mic up high where it's at, where all you got to do is use an amplifier or just hold it up to your neck or your face piece. It's right there. You can, anyway, the clip-on mics or shoulder mics need to be there. Dispatching on the same channel that you fight fires on. I know some of you have no choice when it comes to that, and I understand that when it comes to frequencies, but a lot of people do, and we've really got to work. There's been reports written on concentrating on getting people off of their main channel over to a fireground channel when it comes to fighting fires. So nobody's walking on each other. Nobody's, interfering with those that are the most important at the time, and that's those on your fireground, interfering with their radio traffic or possibly covering them when they've got something important to say. But number one, usually right up there, when let's just talk about this for a while, is the SOPs, SOGs thing. You're going to have to trust me on this, because this is what's absolutely amazing as you travel around all over the country doing programs, is how many departments, first off, actually have no SOPs or SOGs. None. I swear to you, there are some departments out there that have none. Now, I'm not saying how horrible, they are for not doing that, but today, guys, all you have to do is pick up the phone. All you have to do is get online. Hell, go to the training page, the training community page at Fire Engineering's website. There's people on there. They'll send you their policies and procedures, and you can use them as a Phoenix has done it for years. But there's so many fire departments out there that send you a copy of their policies, procedures that you can take and kind of manipulate and cut and paste and do what you got to do to create your own. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's an incredible foundation out there already established for you that you just need to grab a hold of and bring to your department. So, there's a number one, the lack of people that have a good program. There truly are departments that have none. Secondly, you got those that have them, but they're from like 1965, and they haven't been updated. And we went through it here not that long ago, and our 2 assistant chiefs, Daryl Brown and Tim Tittle, spent forever. This was a work in progress. I know that they were working on, especially Daryl, for years. We got so busy with other stuff that at times it ended up on the shelf, and then it came back. But it was a big project, and when we got done with it, we're pretty proud of how they turned out. But again, how often do you update them? We've got a system here that every time we update one, when they're sent out to the station to be placed in those books and on the computers, that each officer will be given an inventory sheet, and it has that policy on it. And that officer and their firefighters at their station have to sign off that they reviewed that policy. They did this originally with the whole thing, and then as we get updates, they just sign off they reviewed it, so nothing falls through the cracks and guys go, I didn't know about that, or they get hurt later because they did something they shouldn't have or wouldn't have been allowed to happen if they know there's a policy in place. All those things that happen. And trust me, they do. And lastly, you've got the departments that have them and don't follow them. They've got policies and procedures, and they don't follow them. I don't get it. We've talked about this when it comes to firefighter safety and survival with the 16 initiatives. As important as they are and the impact they're having, the bottom line is, if you don't want to be ejected, we've said this probably 100 times in this show. If you don't want to be ejected, through the windshield of your fire engine or tanker or tender, if you're out west, there you go, guys. Or ambulance, then wear your seatbelt. We shouldn't have to give you an award, even though I think that's an incredible idea to make sure we're getting people to do it. But, it's called putting your seatbelt. If you don't want to die of cancer, then wear your face piece. It took me a long time. I grew up on the south side of Chicago was some Neanderthals. I'm telling you, there were some folks there, just like there is in other parts of the country, that thought it was cool not to wear an air pack, not to wear a face piece. The more soot you had on your face, the better. And nowadays we've realized that, that's really not too smart. Getting dirty and looking cool and all that's fine. It's like the burn helmet thing. I used to, when I was younger in my career, I was like anybody else who thought that looked cool, until I realized that if you're burning your helmet all the time, it doesn't necessarily mean you're in there, fighting the red devil all the time, as much as maybe you're putting yourself in a spot or a position you shouldn't be in. When it comes to wearing if you don't want to die of cancer, then wear your face piece. There's nothing cool about dying from lung cancer and from other things because you weren't prepared and you weren't thinking. But trust me, though, I mean, the policies and procedures and the guidelines that are out there, stopping at intersections, if the red light's red and you stop and there's a stop sign, if you stop at either one of those or you have somebody backing you up, your chance of backing over somebody or broadside in a car pretty much disappear for the most part. Nothing's foolproof, but your chances of wrecking are reduced just due to you thinking a little bit and getting there. So, number one, SOPs, SOGs, take a good hard look at what you're doing with your department, where they're at. Folks, I'm telling you, yes, it is work, but when you're done, it's an incredibly satisfying feeling to know what you've done with your department. And there's so much out there now that you can grab a hold of that there shouldn't be any more excuses as to we don't have any. Number two, let's talk about this one, the next one, hose line advancement. How good are you advancing your hose? Our good friend Andy Fredericks, who we lost on 9/11, and Andy, I tell people all the time, is still training my guys here. He's still, to this day, he's been gone for several years, and he is still training our firefighters here in Louisville through the programs he taught, through his videos and lectures and everything. But there's so many things we gleaned from Andy and from everyone else out there, from Chief Dave McGrail from Denver. How often are you practicing this? Now, we've got several aerial ladders here in Louisville that we run up in the air every day, and we run saws and everything else. But I'll even ask my own guys, when's the last time, Cap, you've had one of your firefighters put his coat, gloves, and helmet on, tell him to grab the cross layer, the skid load, and lean out to a particular door? Have him or her show you that they know how to stretch the line, how they know how to drop the fold, so when you advance it into the door, when you charge it, it's less likely to rub against a door jamb, creating that friction. And here we've done something different. Our firefighters can tell you that, the first 100 feet from the nozzle back are not 250s, it's 100-foot length. And we did that to get rid of that first coupling. That first coupling, that you already know where I'm going with this. You've already thought of it. That gets hung up on the stoop or the threshold or somewhere like that. We got rid of that. But how quickly you deploy that line, how quickly you get water to the seat of the fire. Chief Vinny Dunn has said for years, 98% of our fires across the country here are knocked down, put out with the initial attack line. How quick you get that line deployed, how quick you get water on the fire is either going to make for a good day or a bad day. How good you are advancing hose, making sure it doesn't get wedged underneath the door, underneath the tire. When that happens and you're in there and you're getting ready and it lights up on you and you open that nozzle and it piddles on you, that's a bad time. Okay, these are, again, I'm hoping everybody out there is going, God, Rick, this sounds awfully basic, but think about it. Read the reports. What happened? Besides that, the first 24 minutes we talked about before, on an average, we lose and kill most of our firefighters and injure them in the first 24 minutes of an incident. Then it dips down, picks up an hour and a half later when a couple of things are set in, and one of them is fatigue. When we get tired, we do things we shouldn't be doing. We get lazy. We end up in collapse zones. We end up doing things we shouldn't. And then fatigue also occurs to the building. Everything put in it to hold it up is leaving via the smoke and flames, and gravity is going to win. So, we have that. But the first 24, they're usually on their first bottle. They're usually in on a primary search. They're usually on the initial attack line. This is when it flashes. This is when floors collapse, all these different things. When you read it again, you'll see that often It's within that first 24 minutes. So keep that as we're talking about this, at the front part of your thought process here, the first 24 minutes. But back to this hose line thing, which lines are you bringing? Our good friend Tom Freeman from Lyle Woodard just said for years, are you bringing a knife to a gunfight? Are you selecting the proper line, the proper attack line? Are you bringing an 1.5 inches or 1.75 inches to a fire? We should be bringing a 2.5. And if you don't practice enough with your 2.5, then maybe that's the issue. But again, that positive water source. There's fire departments still that if they're told there's a rescue, will run into the burning building without a hose line trying to effect the rescue. When we know if you put the fire out, the problem usually goes away, and you can save people's lives simply by putting the fire out, by getting in there and get water on the fire, or maybe water between the fire and your potential victims. Getting that line in there, getting water to the fire is critical. It's paramount to your safety and survival. So how are your hose loads set up on your rig? Can you deploy them quickly? Are you doing anything minimum company standards wise to make sure everybody in your department knows how quick you should be able to deploy that line? Do your firefighters know which line to choose? This kind of brings me back to, and we got a department not that far from us here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex that I actually have the radio traffic, and it's a large department. And one of their incident commanders, one of their battalion chiefs, they're at a house fire, 2-story, single-family dwelling, and you hear him give the order to the truck crew on the roof to cut him a 4-foot by 4-foot hole on the leeward side of the roof. Well, no duh, Chuchi. If you've got to tell your truck crew to cut a 4-foot by 4-foot hole in the leeward side of the roof, then we need to send them back to the fire academy. In most cases, you don't have to do that. The same thing happens if you're an officer and have to turn around and tell your firefighter which line to pull. Now, I'm not talking about just grab the 2.5 on this one or stretch it to the front door, but the front or rear crosslay or top or bottom crosslay or the skid line, that's your firefighter's job. Unless you got a brand new firefighter, we should be training them. Chief Eddie Enright from Chicago did this for years. I mean, he used to do it with me. We'd pull up and he'd stop in the middle of the street. And he'll go, Rick, 3rd house in, 3-story, fire to top floor. How much hose do you need? And I'd say, okay, Chief, trucks can get at the front of the building, so my bumper's going to be there, my tailboard. I got about 75 feet to the door. Rule of thumb is 1 length per landing. I can get it with my crosslay, or no, I got to grab the skid load. That company officer, that person riding the front seat's got a lot to think about. Turn around, look at your firefighters, and say over the headset, hey, stretch line the front door, wait on me. Get out, do your 360, unass the seat, get out, walk around, take a quick duck to the back of the building if you can, so you don't, walk yourself into a problem with a walkout basement or whatever. Get back around the front. Now all you got to do is put your face piece on, your hood, your helmet, your gloves, off you go. And if anyone should be able to do that rather quickly, should be the officer. And there you go. Again, are you working with your firefighters on this when it comes to hose line advancement? Are you teaching them, how to follow hose and we'll get to that in a section. When it comes to following couplings out and whether using the Bernard Easy exits, the arrows, we have them on our hose lines here to help our firefighters find their way out. But hose line advancement is key. What about building construction and fire behavior? Okay. What about building construction and fire behavior? We've said for years, and I've used it from my other good friend, and have you picked up on that I have no problem mentioning my mentors and the people that have impacted my life and my career? I have no problem mentioning it because I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for them. But Chief Jack McCaslin, Mac, here's a guy that when I was 18 years old, taught me one very important lesson, well, among other things. I just say one of the important lessons he taught me is how I should say it, is, Rick, if you want to be good at fire behavior and you want to be good at building construction, you have to know you have to know the subjects. If you want to be a good firefighter, you have to know building construction fire behavior. You have to know how the building's going to work with the fire. All right, how the building's going to react to the fire, how the fire's going to react to the building. If you don't know those two things, you're guessing. If you don't know how that building is going to react to the fire, and in return how the fire is going to react to building, those two things, then how do you know where to ventilate, where to stretch your line? You're guessing. You're actually guessing when it comes to to doing that. So what a true statement. Again, right from Jack McCaslin, if you want to be a good firefighter, you need to know building construction fire behavior. You need to know how the fire is going to react to the building react to the fire. You can put it any way you want, reverse it, turn around. You have to know those two things. But what I'm talking about when it comes to building construction and fire behavior is, do you know what the catastrophic failure points of each one is? When they're going to fall down around you, from underneath you, on top of you. Fire-resistant buildings, are not that big of a problem until you introduce a lot of heat and you start spalling that concrete, and you spall enough of it to where you expose the steel, the mechanisms that were put in to make it even stronger, whether it's those rods or whatever, and now you have larger areas spalling, and then you end up with a large collapse from within that structure, which is a bad thing. Fire resistive, again, just because it's concrete doesn't mean, concrete is kind of what they say, in that never-ending state of curing. There's the moisture. It's always grabbing and reaching out for that moisture. I guess if it didn't, it would be dust. I guess that's an easy way to explain it. But part of that is when you start heating it, that moisture, expands and starts popping, chunks and pieces, and things start to crumble. And again, so, fire resistive, we've got some concerns. What about non-com? Our biggest concern there here in our town are the roofs, the steel bar joist roofs that can come down on you. The weak link, it's no different than teaching force entry. You teach force entry to your guys. The key to being successful teaching force entry is teaching people, your firefighters, to identify the weak link. All right, when you're beating on that lock and there's a glass window next to it, that should be a sign. When you're beating on the lock and the hinges are exposed, which the hinges are the weak link, the hinges on the door, there's your sign. When you cut a $100 lock off a 9-cent piece of chain, you're not thinking too much there. So when you identify the weak link in forcible entry, things get a lot easier. It's the same thing with building construction. When you identify the weak link and what's going to happen here, and how quick it can happen, or the first thing to happen, you'll start to identify some weaknesses. And the weak link with the non-com often is the roof assembly. So, we have in our policy here that we don't allow our firefighters up on top of steel bar joist roofs with our strip malls or anything to ventilate the roof. By the time they get through the built-up roofing, or they get through the membrane, the gypsum board, the pan, often they're either going to be in the fire, they're not over the fire, it's out or whatever. A lot of reasons. Just the quick failure of those roof assemblies is probably the biggest reason. We don't want our guys on top of them. So, non-com, you got the roof assembly, among other things, but the roof assembly to worry about. Ordinary construction, we're looking at our walls. We're looking at other things. Masonry construction at 8 to 10 inches, minimum thickness, brick on brick, brick on block, block on block, wood joisted. Still big problems when we start to lose the structure integrity of the building and we lose our walls. And I don't know too many people that can outrun a brick wall once it starts to come down. Collapse zones, with any of these buildings is key. You get into mill or heavy timber. We used to not have to worry about that because about the time we realized, it was time to get out of the way, it already blistered the paint on our rigs or melted our lights and skull savers and all that stuff and everything else. Nowadays, with some of the refurbing that's going on, with some of that stuff, we're actually seeing some of these things collapse a lot quicker. So we don't have that safety valve, if you will, that we used to have years ago. So you got to be careful there. And then with wood frame, balloon frame, with the hazards there, and then platform, and then lightweight. Lightweight, we've talked about that. It's balloon frame on its side, except you don't have the integrity. It falls apart in minutes. You don't have the dimensional lumber. And so, 5 basic types, but we've talked just for a few minutes basically about how they fall down, how they fall apart, and how they fall down. You don't have to be a scientist from NIST. The good folks at NIST that do a lot of great work for you. You don't have to work for them in order to sit down with your young firefighters and explain that to them. How about search and rescue? How about search and rescue? How good are you, or how good are your people at searching a building? Our other good friend, Chief Tom Trevino, has said for years, we are search poor in this country. We still have firefighters teaching firefighters to hang on to the boot of the firefighter in front of them. How can you search a room when you're hanging on to the boot of the firefighter in front of you with one hand and use the other one to crawl? You know, you work on this. You talk about communications. You know, you're in that room or not in that room together. Are you posting somebody at the door when you're searching a bedroom that's monitoring conditions in the hallway? Has that searchlight as your beacon, you know, back to the door, letting you get in, and then swapping rooms every other room. And so, I mean, there's so many different things to talk about when it comes to. We probably just need to do a class or actually a show on just talking about search and rescue. We'll get one of the truck guys out here and we'll do that. But again, how thermal imagers are great. I love every one of our rigs have thermal imagers. Our truck has a couple of them. But you know, are you still teaching your firefighters how to search conventionally? How to search and identify landmarks such as a sofa, an end table, a television, a chair. So when they drop the camera goes dead, or if they don't have one, they can find their way out. You know, where the windows and doors are. You know, a really easy drill to do, and a bunch of us used to do this back in Illinois, and at the Institute, Greg Fisher was notorious for this, and Jeff Welch and Billy Farnham and them, and that is the room orientation drill, and not to be confused with another great drill that Chief Salka does, where he takes you in, blindfolds you, spins you around, puts you to the floor, and you have to find your way out. You've got, you know, a minimal amount of air. And that's interesting enough. That's probably one of the best hands-on drills we ever did at FDIC. And we could talk about that one another time, but it's a great drill to do, the room orientation. This one is basically setting up your burn tower or even a room with different items along the search route, a cinder block, a baby doll, a hydrant wrench, a Y, a gated Y, a roll of hose. You know, make sure there's a window and door along the way, and then you send your two firefighters in as a team, and they search it as quickly as they can, like they're doing a primary search, stopping, putting their hands in each one of those things and moving on. As soon as they get out, they pull their face piece off, they walk over to a dry erase board, they retrace, they draw the room on the dry erase board. Okay, here was our entrance point, here was our exit, here was a window, there was a door, this we found the baby doll, this we found the hydrant wrench. And you'll get folks that'll ask you, what's the point of finding a cinder block in our training tower or in the room? And the point is, you're forcing them to put the room back together. You're forcing them to stop and while they're virtually, you know, without any of the five senses that everyone else has in the world, and trying to put that room together with their hands, with their fingers. You think about the fact that if you're asked to crawl into a burning building with little or no use of the five senses everyone else out there was given. You know, the cops, folks walking down the street, you know, sight, visibility in a burning building. There's number one right there. Limited if at all. Feel, you've got very, you know, again, with gloves on. Smell, you don't have much way of smell, you don't have much way of taste, and your hearing is impaired with hoods and regulators and radios and things like that. So you have limited or no use of some, or if not all, of the five senses everyone else can use, yet you're asked to crawl into a burning building that could fall down on top of you, from underneath you, could burn you, you know, all these different things, locate fire, locate people, get in, get out, all that. You know, that's why we need to be talking about the basics of some of these small things. So again, when it comes to search and rescue, how much work are you doing to keep your people oriented in the room? I think you'd be surprised to see how many firefighters were lost or turned around in a room before it flashed and burned them. They were lost or turned around before they fell through the floor or crawled into a hole, whatever. I think you'd be surprised. So, you know, what are you doing in your department when it comes to search and rescue? And how are you doing it when it comes to keeping them oriented in the room? That brings us to our next one, is SCBAs. How well do your firefighters know their SCBAs? How much air do they have? Are you doing the consumption test? Are you so everybody kind of has an idea. Even the officers know how much time they've got with their people inside a burning building. You know, the hazmat folks for years have had us beat on this because, you know, I know when we had our hazmat team in Bedford Park, you know, we used to figure, if you're the head of the entry team, you figured the real working time on your SCBA. You took the lowest bottle pressure, of the entry team, of one of the members, and that was where you started, and you subtracted your alarm time, because your alarm time is just that. It's not extra minute time, it's your alarm time, your emergency time. You subtracted that. You talked to the decon folks, say, okay, how much time do I need to decon them in this particular incident? How much time? Okay, you subtract that. You subtract your travel time to and from the hot zone, and that leaves you what was considered your real working time. And even then, we shave some minutes off. That's where you capture those backup minutes where the guys say, I need 2 more minutes. What are we doing? We've got the Seattle guys taking care of air management. What are you doing to do that within your department? How much time do you, how comfortable with the air packs? Have you had your rookies or probies breathe down every last bit of air past their vibra alert or their bell to know how much they have if they're pinned? How to concentrate on slowing down their breathing and get the most out of that bottle. Don't believe the whole 45-minute or 30-minute pack thing. We've said that for years. And besides that, if it took you half the air to get into the building, it's going to take you that to get out. It's not the new math, okay? And I'll get people say, yeah, but once I'm in, I can get out a lot quicker. There's no my way out. Well, what's a hindrance to that sometimes, folks, is you get in, when you turn around and get out, you end up using as much air, sometimes even more, because you're getting towards the end, you're huffing and puffing more, you're expending a lot more energy. Even though you're crawling out, you're still using a lot of air. So again, what are you doing in the way of air management with your department and training your people? Probably one of the most important appliances or tools you're going to bring to your fire, your SCBA, when it comes to that. So just simple things like the SCBA. How about your tools? Do you know your tools? There are so many people out there. Absolutely love going to the conferences, especially FDIC, the greatest show on the face of the earth. But I'm always amazed when I go to the exhibits to see some of the stuff people are selling, although our exhibitors are very important to us, hint, hint. But the biggest problem is, when somebody can show me, something that can eliminate me from using my halogen bar or a 6-foot all-purpose hook, those 2 tools, if you were going to pick a tool or 2 tools to crawl in a burning building with, you might want to pick something that can get you out if you get trapped, that can get another firefighter out if he or she gets trapped, if you get them out. Something's going to make your job easier. Sometimes some of, the ideas that come out are decent, but, sometimes just knowing your tools and what they do, how to actually pull ceiling, how to actually use, the halogen, the hundreds of uses of the halogen bar. There's so many things we need to be doing. Know your tools. Your tools are critical. Don't ever show up in a fireground without your tools. I learned that lesson years ago. When I was 18, Jack McCaslin sent me back to stage with my crew. I walked up. He says, "Where are your tools?" So back on the rig. He goes, "Go back to your rig." And that never happened again since then. I had a crew here at a fire come up to me, come all the way around back and say, "Chief, they sent us around the back. What do you need?" I said, "I need you to overhaul. Where are your tools?" And they said, "On the rig." I said, "Unless you're good at magic tricks, I really don't need you right now." Someone should have told you, I think they did, you were going to a structure fire. So maybe you should have grabbed your tools when you got off your rig, knowing you were going to a fire. So know your tools, have your tools, be ready to go, okay? Don't give up your tools. Somebody else wants a tool from you, you say, push them aside, say, "What do you need?" You don't hand your tool off to anybody. You keep it. It's yours. You work with it. That's a whole other pride thing. We can call Chief Burt, call Curtis Burt up in Lake Cities, and Lake Cities FD in Texas, and ask him, how often you'll get a tool away from one of his guys. Or come here to Louisville. You don't see him passing tools off. You ask for a pike pole, they'll say, "What do you need?" He goes, "Let me see your pike pole." I say, "What do you need?" He said, they'll push you out of the way and say, "What do you need?" And they'll pull the ceiling for you. You don't give up your tools, but know your tools. How about the next one, portable radios? Do you know your portable radios? Does everybody have one? If not, again, back to the clip-on mics, the shoulder mics, do you have those on there? Do you know where your fireground channel is? If you use a different channel for fireground than channel 1, when do you switch to it? And as a safety valve on some of these 16-channel radios, maybe you ought to put fireground all the way at the end. We did that where if, for fireground, our primary fireground channel is channel 4, and then we have another one on channel 5. But if for some reason had to switch from 1 to 4, and you ask somebody really quick, how many clicks on the radio is it? They're going to tell you 4, which it's not. They'll tell you if you're sitting in a classroom, it's 3, because they know. But I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, you make them do it in an incident or at a training, at a drill. You'll see them. They'll click it on up on channel 5, trying to go to 4, because they'll go 4 clicks, and up on 5. You're already on channel 1. It's 3 clicks on the radio to go to 4. Simple little things. Well, you bump your radio, you knock your radio, you got a glove hand on, you're trying to change channels with a glove. Maybe putting your fireground channel all the way at the end on channel 16, whatever channel that is. You bump it, you knock it. All you got to do in the smoke, you can't see, is take it, go all the way to the other end. You're back on fireground, and we can talk to you. A lot of little things. Working with your radio. Do you make your folks really make them all talk on the radio while they're masked up in a building doing things? Get them used to where they have to hold the mic, where they have to talk, and how they have to talk. Some of the guys out there that have the low voices need to enunciate sometimes a little bit better so it doesn't sound all muffled so we can hear what they're saying. So, again, small stuff. Seems kind of simple. It seems kind of silly, actually, to tell you have to go out and work with your portable radio. But the time when you're calling for help, it can only have 1 or 2 calls out for us to say repeat. The time for that to happen when fire's rolling ahead is a bad time. So make sure you know your portable radios, how to work them, and that you're doing what you should be doing with them. How about your uniforms? How about your PPE? Are you explaining to your firefighters about your protective clothing? Do you just hand it to them in a plastic bag, say, here you go? Do you make it put on, say, how's that fit, adjust your suspenders? Or do you explain what the capabilities of the gear is and the limitations, where the weak links are? Remember, we talked weak links before. The weak links, your face piece, your hood, do you give them 2 hoods? When they get the one soaking wet from changing a sprinkler head or from being out in a storm, can they change to a dry one? Because that'll probably be the day that they have a fire light up on them, and they'll burn the ears off their head with steam burns because they're wearing a wet hood. Flashover. This is where we get into flashover. You teach your people about flashover, the temperatures, when it occurs, what you're going to see, what you're going to feel, what's going to happen, the point of no return, all those things. How long is your gear going to last in that environment before it begins to degrade, break down? How much protection you have? Let's talk about heat stress emergencies here. How to recognize, you're starting to get to that point with heat exhaustion before it ends up grabbing a hold of you and putting you down. Every time you put a needle in someone's arm and you put them down due to heat exhaustion, often they'll get to it a lot quicker the next time. So are we talking about heat stress emergencies when we get to our protective clothing? The capabilities and the limitations with it. It's incredible gear, but we got to talk about the positives and, where the shortcomings are, if any. And that's mainly just being in too far too long or being caught in the wrong place. Are we explaining our protective clothing to our folks? Does your pass device work? Do you know how to operate it? If it's not an integrated pass for some reason, do you know? The integrated ones, first of all, how many times you walked around your fireground and had to reset one for someone or shut off for someone? You see that all the time. Someone else walks up and resets. If they don't know how to reset it, they probably don't know how to activate it. And I don't know about I don't want to wait for the 20, 22 seconds of the lay motionless, waiting for the warning, then the other 10 seconds or so for it to activate. I want to know how to turn it on right now to get me help. But I think you'd be amazed if you walked up to people on fireground and said, show me how to activate your pass device, show me how to turn it off, all right, how to reset it. How many people will not be able to do that? So do a little test. Check that with you. Very, very key, very, very important piece of equipment if you go down, get lost, or need help is your pass device. Does your flashlight work? Do you have a flashlight? Do you have 2 of them? All right. Do you have 2 flashlights, yours and the department's? Go out and spend some money, invest in your life, buy a good rechargeable flashlight. You know, because you watch it, that it's charged, that it's good to go, that it's not going to fail on you when you need it the most. Take a little bit of your lottery money or whatever it is and invest in a flashlight, one for yourself, and then use obviously you got the cities, but boy, going into somewhere, I've seen it happen before with one flashlight, when it starts to go dim and goes out, and you need some light, is again a small thing, but it tends to be a big thing after a while. So get a good flashlight or 2. Okay, make sure you walk around 2 of them. Do you believe in RIT? Do you believe in rapid intervention? And no, it doesn't suck. There was someone out there a while back that said RIT sucks and it doesn't work. And you know what? Maybe it doesn't where you're at, but we've never said that you could be effective trying to get someone out of a warehouse or commercial structure with only 2 people. We've never said that. It was hard enough years ago to get people to believe in the concept, let alone having enough people on the scene to do it. If you think you're going to run a Mayday situation with 2 or 4 firefighters, you're also kind of being foolish. there's a lot more to it. The goal with when we hear all the rapid isn't rapid and all this stuff, yeah, you know what? No duh. Well, how long did it take you to realize that it's not rapid? We've said that for years, you know. But there is a lot of firefighters today that are alive because of a rapid intervention team, because somebody went in after a firefighter, found them located, and got them out. It doesn't suck. It works. The RIT bags we came up with years ago were not designed to put a boat anchor and everything else in them. They weren't designed. They were designed to help carry some stuff to the scene, which what you took out and you gave to certain firefighters within your group, and you used the bag pretty much when you're all said and done. Use the bag to carry the SCBA if you have to. Other than that, it's not this big boat anchor. Okay, it wasn't designed to be that way. RIT doesn't suck. Again, ask the families of those firefighters that have been saved if they think it sucks. All right. Yes, 2 firefighters could get in and find me, locate me, and help me out or lead me out or throw a ladder for me. We understand that. But if you're going to get in and try to drag someone across carpeting or out of a building, out of a room, or down a hallway, it's going to take several firefighters. So let's get past that right now. Realize that if you have a mayday, you have a firefighter trap, you're going to use a whole lot of people with a whole lot of stuff. So get it there and get it there ahead of time. Be thinking ahead. Don't blame the process of rapid intervention because you're a poor incident commander, because you're a poor planner. All right, it's called being prepared and believing in it and taking something very serious. So no, RIT doesn't suck. It works. Okay, and that brings us right to how's your attitude. All right, how's your attitude towards what we just said, towards RIT? All right, how's your attitude towards training? Are you just one of those people that signs a training book and doesn't train? Do you train every day, even on Sunday? Every day? Do you take 10 minutes? Do you go to the community page on the website we talked about? Watch the videos. Watch the videos. Pick up a magazine. Read something. Every month there's great articles in Fire Engineering Magazine. You go to I said it time and time again. Make fireengineering.com your morning newspaper. Take 10 minutes of your life to help protect your life and those around you. How's your attitude when you get to the firehouse for the call, when the pager goes off? Is it another BS call, or are you taking it serious? Are you into the job? Are you a student of the job? Are you passionate about it? Or are you just taking up space? As Jerry Cunningham, one of our battalion chiefs, talks about here, be part of the shift, be part of your department, not part of the furniture. Okay, are you making a difference? How's your attitude? All right, and your attitude is going to affect those around you. So you need to stay positive. You need to stay up. We're going through some bad times right now, but still, when it comes down to everything we want to talk about, and if our goal is to reduce the amount of line of duty death funerals we're going to, often it's going to be our attitude we have to adjust. Communications. I'm not talking about radio right now. I'm talking about from shift to shift, from drill night to drill night, bad buildings. Hey, did you hear about the fire they had the next town over? Did you see this? What are you doing to get the information up and down the chain within your department, from the chief down to the rookie and the rookie back up? What are you doing to get the information out there? Don't just rely on emails. Get the word out. And are you getting your people ready? All right, we call that people staging. Are you preparing your people for the next level, for the next act, for the next rank, whatever? Are you getting them ready? Rather than hold them back and say, well, 5 years so. You know what? All you're doing is getting people better at what they're doing by training them for the next level or training them for that particular task. All right, that specific task. Make sure you get your people staged and you get people ready for what they're supposed to be doing. And lastly here, as we look to close things out of this whole sweating the small stuff, are you practicing the 3 F's that our good friend Eddie Enright used to talk about, or 4 if you spell firefighter with 2 words? The 3 F's when it comes to taking care of business. Number 1, your firefighters. Number 2, your fire apparatus. And number 3, your firehouses. Number 1, your firefighters. Are you taking care of business for them? Are you properly equipping them? Are you training them? Do you have the right attitude, the right environment? Officers, are you training your people? All right, are you taking care of business? It's the leadership thing. Walk into a firehouse. If the firehouse is filthy, don't blame the firefighters, blame the officer. All right, if things are messing up when they get out at an incident, don't necessarily blame the firefighters. You got to go after the officer. And yes, we do lean on on you, Lieutenant or Cap or Battalion Chief Moore, but that's because we need you. We need you to set the tempo. We need you to lead our firefighters, keep them out of harm's way, and train them and develop them. That's your job, is to develop your people. That's why we lean on you so much, because we need you so much. So number one, your firefighters. Number two, your fire apparatus. All right? It's great to have the rigs, but you know what? Remember, firefighters first, then your fire apparatus and your tools. All right? Knowing and taking care of business with the right stuff. And lastly, firehouses. All right? You got your firefighters, your fire apparatus, and your firehouses. There are a lot of fancy, award-winning firehouses. I've been to a couple that are gorgeous, beautiful firehouses, yet the firefighters are wearing gear with blown-out knees and wore out this, wore out that, and don't have the right tools. All right, that's great. The station looks great on the outside, but what do you got on the inside, Chief? What do you got on the inside for firefighters and your apparatus and your tools? And again, the training, the foundation, everything. What are you doing for your folks to make them better and to get them where they need to be? So practicing those 3 F's probably sums up everything we just talked about. I mean, when we talk about sweating the small stuff, you know, it's fun to get into everything else that we do in the fire service, the technical rescue, all the specialty areas, and the fire service is full of some of the most talented people I've ever been around in my life. However, you know, when we get rid of and we move on from the basics, that whole back to the basics theme we went with a few years ago, our good friend Commissioner Leo Stapleton summed it up best when he was getting ready to speak at FDIC. When Leo said, I notice that this year's theme is back to the basics. He says, back to the basics. Why did we leave them in the first place? We're really not that good at them. Actually, we kind of suck. You know, maybe if we got back to some of the smaller things, let's get back to those things that we need to be training our firefighters in. I think you'll see things happen better around the firehouse. You'll see things happen much more smoothly, much more safely on the fire ground, and you'll definitely see that you're impacting the lives of your firefighters and again, everyone around you. So keep in mind, sweating the small stuff, nothing's too little, nothing's too small. You know, have that eye for detail, stay passionate, train your firefighters, officers step up, train your folks, firefighters adjust your attitude, have the right attitude when you walk in the firehouse. Chiefs, take care of your people. All these little things we need to be taking care of. You know, we're going through some bad times right now, budget-wise. You know what? Hang in there. Keep the faith. The fire service is still the greatest profession in the world, even through these bad times. Still the greatest profession in the world. We will survive this. We've talked about this before. It will get better, and we'll make it through this. But most importantly, folks, please take care of your people out there. Take care of those around you, and we'll end this show like we do all our other shows with 2 very important words, and that's be safe.